1, the third page of the mimer, and we were talking about the order of the pasuk of Axre Hashem Alekechem, Axre Alekechem Telechu, and we were explaining that why is that the first thing that we're talking about in the pasuk? Because we are referring to the avodah milmata l'mayla. We're referring to the avodah of, like avodah satfila, as opposed to Torah. Torah mitzvahs in general is from above to below, especially Torah is the level from above to below. Tefillah is the avodah of from below to above. Therefore, in the avodah of tefillah, we start first with the level of Axray. Axre Havaya Lekechem Kalei, from the back. That level of the back means that there's those levels that are Achrayim, that they receive their chayes from the Eibishter, not in a way that's pnimius, it's not part of Hashem's pnimius harotzen. If we're receiving our chayes from the Eibishter in a way of chitzonius harotzen, his Achrayim, his back. Those are things that are either prohibited or things that are permitted, but they're not part of Kedusha. And we spoke about different levels of elevating them. There are those that could be elevated, those that can't be elevated, just like in the Trumas Hadeshen as a preparation for the Avodah in the Beis Hamikdash. It was the part of the ashes that were absorbed and swallowed up within the ground over there, and then there were the ashes that couldn't be elevated; they had to be put outside of the Beis Hamikdash. So that is the level of the most severe level of Achrayim. Achrei Havaya Lekechem Telechu, going with the level of the back to Chitzonius. Now the Rebbe is going to work his way up to a more subtle and more refined level of Achrayim in explaining this idea of Axre Havaya Lekechem Telechu. So again, it's the third page of the mimer, page 166. I think we said 7 lines in the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines in the top, the end of the line. Just like there's the avoid at the level of the back in things that are not good, like we said before. They're not good. They could be shalosh kupsat meyes, etc., or divrei reshus, things that are not from the back of Hashem's will. Like so too, vinigam b'toiv gufa also good itself. Yes, avoid of krias acharayim. There's the avoid on the level of the back. Question is, if we're dealing with toiv, if we're dealing with kedusha, how could there be a level of the back? Seemingly, when you're dealing with toiv, when you're dealing with kedusha, there wouldn't be a level of the back. So he says, "Chol davar yesh hapnimius shaboy v'achitzonius shaboy." In everything, even in kedusha itself, there's the inner level and the external level. And the external level, even of the good, that's called the level of Achrayim, the level of Axre Havaya Lekechem Telechu, the initial level before you go high. The avoid of Krinas Achrayim, what is the avoid in the level of the back? Even in good, the external level, even in good. When he thinks into the entire chain order of descent, it only comes from a ray of the Eibishter. That it says that his name is exalted alone. In other words, even the name of the Eibishter, which is still not the Eibishter's essence, that is also removed. And only Hoidoi, his glory, is on Eretz v'Shamayim, on the earth, on the heavens, on the Seder Ishtalshlut. Like Chassidus in other places talks about, it's the Hoid of the Shem, it's the ray of the name, it's a ray of the ray that comes into the world. But he doesn't get into this over here. The main thing is, it's only a ray, only a ha'ara that comes into the world. This means the indication of this pasuk is that the entire chain order to descend, all the worlds, all the revelations, is only from the Eibishter's name, Shmoi, and Hoid, his glory, array. It said, Gufu, Gamkin, Rak Hoid Bilvat. Oh, he does bring this in over here. I'm sorry. That in this itself, it's not the name alone, which already the name is array, but it's the glory of his name. It's only a ray of the rays. That's how removed it is from the Eibishter. That's what it says in Baruch Shamar. Baruch Shamar that we say every morning in Shachris. Baruch Shamar, V'haya Olam, Baruch Hu, Baruch Haimer Voisa, Baruch Haimer Kaim, etc. All of these things are talking about the creation. In general, we're going to mention about Psukkah de Zimra. It's the whole idea of the whole series of kapitlach that we're speaking about from Baruch Shamar through Yishtabach is all talking about primarily the world and the existence of the world and how everything is in the world. Afterwards, we talk about the Malachim and the Shamas, as we're going to mention. So already in Baruch Shamar, it's referring to different aspects of creation. They said the Baruch Hu ad Baruch Shmoi heim Esther Pamim Baruch. There's 10 times Baruch, but after Baruch Shamar V'Ha'olam Baruch Hu, the second time it says Baruch. Baruch Shamar V'Ha'olam is a general thing. Then Baruch Hu until the Baruch at the conclusion of that section, Baruch Shmoi, it says 10 times Baruch. Why does it say 10 times Baruch? 10 times Baruch. The 10 times Baruch correspond to the 10 spheres. In a kol zehu Baruch Shmoi. The conclusion is the last of this set of 10 is Baruch Shmoi. Why does it conclude with the word Shmoi? That his name is blessed. To tell you, Shurak Shem Va'adabal Vad. You should know all of these levels, all of these revelations, even the 10 spheres. All of this is only considered Hamshachei Baruch only of Shmoi. It's only his name. We see also this concept of this emphasis that it's only ha'ara, only a level of Hashem. Gam be'birchas Yishtabach, you see in Birchas Baruch Shamar, also the bracha of Yishtabach. That's the conclusion of the bracha of Baruch Shamar. Hina Emrim Yishtabach Shimcha. We say, praise is your name. Again, the emphasis is on the level of name. Because to say all of this, all the Seder Ishtalshus, all the creation, everything we're talking about over here is only the level of a name. Meaning, the Achrei Haizbon, Psukkah de Zimra, B'Shamayim Ba'aretz, after thinking into in the Psukkah de Zimra, the heavens and the earth, everything that we've been talking about earlier in the Psukkah de Zimra, earlier throughout all the kapitlach, all the parts of davening from Baruch Shamar to Yishtabach, you're thinking into all these great things. In calls we conclude. What's the final statement about all this? It's only praising only your name. It's only ha'ara. And in the terminology of the Maimer that we're talking about over here, so that's all the back of Havaya L'Keichem. That's the first step. It's all about the back, the Ketzoinius, the shame, the ha'ara, only the external part. By day through the going through that first part in the pasuk, after and behind Havaya L'Keichem, what's the levels that he's going through? Initially in the avodah of Tikkun Chatzos, Shu avodah in Dvarim Shu Chutz L'Gamri. It's avodah with matters that are totally outside. Meaning, like we said before, Tikkun Chatzos is the time when the person thinks about, makes a cheshbon on nefesh, and thinks about things that are completely outside of the realms of Kedusha, completely acharayim, completely the back and external part of his will. And then, once we've dealt with Tikkun Chatzos, then there's the next morning when we start davening, then we go another level of Achrei Havaya L'Keichem Tolechou, When we get up in the morning and daven, so then we have the back and the external part of Seder Ishtalshus. So then, Achre Alkicham, what's the next word in that first part of the pasuk? Teilechu. From this, he comes to the level of you shall go. It's the level of the rushing towards Hashem, the running towards Hashem, the love of Hashem. What does that mean? Why? What's the connection between going from Acharayim, from the Pitzonius, to Teilechu? Since he feels and he's aware that the entire train order to descend is only a ray of the Eibishter, therefore he's awakened and inspired to a great love. To the inner part and the essence of the Eibush that's beyond the world. He doesn't want to settle for Akarayim, for the back, for the Chitzonius. He wants the inner part. He wants the Pnimius. He wants the essence. This is only external. This is only Hashem's name. He has a yearning and a desire and a love. A leichu. He's going. He's rushing towards this innermost love. And that is the culmination that's to be found in Kriyashma. After you have Psukkah de Zimra, you come to the level of the love that's in Kriyashma. That's the Teilechu. It's a Ba Achre Bracha Rishayna de Kriyashma. It comes after the first bracha of the Birchas Kriyashma. We know there's two brachas as a proceeding for Kriyashma. There's Yotzer Oyer and there's Avos Olam. After you have the first bracha of Kriyashma, Shu Avos HaMalach, in the bracha of Yotzer Oyer, primarily the focus is about the love. We're speaking about Malachim, that the Srafim say Kadosh Kadosh, the Panu V'chais HaKadosh say Baruch Kvoid, and so on. Achre bracha Shnei de Kriyashma, Shu Avos HaNeshamas. And the second bracha of Kriyashma Avos Olam, we're talking over there about the love that the Neshamas have for the Eibishter, the love that Hashem showed us. So then by Kriyashma he arrives at the next stage, at the love that's without a boundary. How does he all of a sudden come to this level of a love without a boundary, without a limitation? That's after prefacing with Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, meaning he's totally devoting himself and giving himself up with and by the word Echad. From this he comes to love with all your heart, with all your soul, until with all your might, that is something without a boundary. That's the level of Teilechu. That's the avodah of love, which because of Halich v'Nesoya Hanegba. Where do we see that the level of love has to do with Teilechu? You already said before that Teilechu has to do with a rotzu, with a rushing towards Hashem. That's the idea of going, similar to what we said in the Satlucham Mahalkin Beinoim de Me'ela. I made you travelers amongst these goers. So we also see, it says by Avraham Avinu, that he was the level of Midas HaChesed. Midas HaChesed is the level of love. So it says, he was going and traveling to the south. We know the level of south is the Kava Yamin. If you're facing Mizrach, if you're facing east, the south will be on your right, the north will be on your left. The right side is the level of Ava. So we see that Avraham Avinu was Holech v'Nasoya Hanegba. He was traveling to the south, meaning the right, the level of love. So we see that the level of love is the idea of Halicha. And that is the ultimate level of Halicha, is when he reaches not just Ava B'chol Avavcha, not just level of Ava B'chol Nafshecha, but he has the level of Ava B'chol Meidecha, that we, as we know, B'chol Meidecha means B'li Gvul, without any boundaries, totally breaking out of all levels. This is all the explanation of Achre Avaya Lekechem Telech. Next part, we're going to explain the next part of the pasuk. Any questions before we go on? Bottom of the third page of the Maimer, page 166. In the void of love, there is still some sense of self. The famous expression of Chassidus, there is someone here that loves. So if there's someone here that loves, that means that it's not quite a complete and total bit. Therefore, it's insufficient. Just have the level of love. There also has to be the level of awe, the level of yira. That's where it says in the second part of the pasuk, it says, and you shall fear him. After it says, Achre Avaya Lekechem Telchu. So in the pasuk it says, voice you shall fear. This awe is a higher level of awe, and this awe is a result, not like the love that we said before, that it comes from Achre Avaya, it comes from the back, it comes from the Chitzonius, but rather the awe comes from the Pnimius, because he recognizes what the Pnimius is. Therefore, he comes to this level of awe. The Zelba Parsha Shnir, the Krishma. The love we said is in the first Parsha of Krishma. So this higher level, the level of Yidei love, that's in the second Parsha of Krishma. Hoyim Shemaya, top of the next page, Tishmru, Hishamru Lachem, as it says, guard yourselves, and Yifta. In other words, it's a matter of fear over here, not just a matter of love. When you say Hishamru Lachem, and Yifta, that's he's fearing. What is this? Where does this fear come from? Since he knows and he recognizes and feels and is aware that the general say that Ishtalshus is only a ray. He has a love for godliness that's beyond the world. Because of his feeling and awareness of the exaltedness of godliness, because it is so removed, so exalted, so wondrous, he comes to a great awe. I have heard about you and I have feared you. Since I have heard about you, that's the feeling of the Eibishter's exaltedness. Because of this, I have been fearful. Now, offhand, the idea over here seems to be that what the Rebbe always speaks about, the difference of Re'iyah and Shmiya. We also, I believe, had this not too long ago in the Maimer. Re'iyah, vision, is from up close. Shmiya is from afar. Therefore, since we're talking about Havaya Shamati Shemacho, so we're talking about a much higher level of the Eibishter, a much higher level of Elikus that cannot be considered close in the way of Re'iyah, but rather it's in a way of Shmiya. Because it's so high in the way of Shmiya, it's something that I only hear about. So therefore, it causes a level of Yiras Haroimimus, that I'm in awe because of how exalted it is. That Rebbe connects us with the second parsha of Krishma as well, not just because Yira is hinted in the words Yishamar Lachem Pen Yifta, but also because the second parsha of Krishma begins with the idea of hearing, of Shamati Shemacha. So, the parsha Shnir, the Krishma, this is to be found in the second parsha of Krishma. That the awe is because of what it says, if you will listen. In other words, that like we said before, the hearing is something farther away. This awe is the supernal law, a supernal awe. Hayiram, Melakus Shalom Mailam Oilam is the level of awe and fear of Hashem that's beyond the worlds. That's the Yira Ilam. This is hinted in the Psukim, the Alter Rebbe says in the Torah, that they don't fear Havaya itself, because that's the level that has to do with the world. Like Yiru es Havaya, it's a level that it's removed, a level that it's tough. Zel Mashakasav Va'oisei Tiro, you shall fear him, Va'oisei Davke, not the level having to do with the worlds, but having to do with Oisei, him himself. So that is, now we explained the levels of Achre V'Alekechem Tiro, Telechu, Va'oisei Tiro. But here we're going to explain even further. It says, Amnam avoided the avir bilvad, avoid of only love and awe of Hashem, ein maspik adayin, that's still insufficient. Yoshem bebeis kaf miyuchadim, since they have, each one has their own unique line. Behergish alev, v'ubergish alev, it's in the feeling of the heart. So there's this line and there's that line. Besides, ein of chinas emes, it's not the complete idea of truth. Truth is not limited to one thing in one place. But Ava and Yira, each one is limited in its own way. Sharei, Ava, Yeshahafki, the Yira, became the Yira, Yeshahafki, the Ava, and love, there's the opposite of it. It also contains in it and includes in it the level of Yira, and in Yira, there's also the opposite that includes in it love. The Einza Emes, this is not completely true until one can cause a cohesion and a coalescing of both. So that he should be able to have the level of his avodah should be in the way of truth. Why? Through a level that's beyond and higher, both the love and the awe. The koilo is beis and includes in it both lines. Like it's explained in Torah in parts Vechi, Ava the Reuven Vayir the Shimon. Ava is the level of Reuven. Again, Reuven is the level of Reu, the level of Re'iyah, that has to do more with the level of love. And Shimon is the idea of Shmiel, like we said before, Shmiel before has to do with the level of Yira. So it's not just enough to have these two things. The level of Ava is the level of rushing towards Hashem. The level of Yira is where he returns, where he pulls back, where he's in awe and he pulls back. That's the Shoiv, that's the level of Shimon. Ain't a maspik. So even if you have a Reuben and you have Shimon, even when you have Ava and you have Yira, this is insufficient. But rather, v'tzarachli is ha'avoida the Levi. It has to be specifically the avoida of Levi davke. Levi is the level, the center line that represents the kav of Tiferes, the middle line that includes, and both of them together, Ava and Yira. This is what it says also in the pasuk, that you should listen to his voice. That it says in our pasuk, what's the idea of his voice that we're listening to? Shukoil haTorah, that's the voice of Torah. Shekoilel as beis hadvarim. The Torah we know is also the center line. We know there's a level of Amshachim of Maila Mata, the level of Mata Maila. There's Chesed, there's Gvura, there's Ava, there's Yira. Torah is in the center line. The center line we know includes both. That's what B'koilei Tishma'u in our pasuk. The Ba'avodas HaTfilah U'Bechinas Emes V'Yatzik. After we had the Achrei Elkichem Tolech, we had the level dealing with Achray, beginning from Krishma Shalamit, or Tikkun Chatzos, as he says here. And we had the avoid of Sukkot Zimra, all dealing with Acharayim, the Chatzaynis of Elokus. That all led to the level of a half that's Shemal Kacha B'chol Meidach. So we got to the Pnimis of Elokus. We got to the level of Telech. We got to the level of Halicha of Rotz. Then we went to the level of Hayim Shemaya Tishma. We have the level of Yira, the Yira law. So then, Baisitiro, then it's followed by, in davening, it's Emes V'Yatziv. But it says in davening, Emes V'Yatziv V'Nochem V'Kayam, so he says, Adavar Hazeh, what's this Davar Hazeh? It says all these expressions. It's true, it's steadfast, it's Kayam, and so on. Adavar Hazeh, this matter. What is this matter going on? The Koy al Dibra Torah. Davar is also the word Dibur, word. It's talking about the words of the Torah. So after I saying the Dibra Torah Davke, Emes V'Yatziv V'Chol Hashem Shechoyshev. Specifically, the word of the Torah is the level of Emes and Yatziv and all the things that he enumerates in Emes V'Yatziv. So why? Because we said before, it's not limited to one line. It's not just Chesed, not just Gvura, not just Rotzi, just Shuv, just Ava, just Yira. We said that's not Emes. When you have Torah, which is a commingling of both, so then you have a level of Emes. The manner how the person has to study Torah has to be in a way of bittul. Just like in davening it says, that Hashem open up my lips and my mouth will relate your praises. So too when it comes to Torah study. That just like by davening, before we stand Shemin Esrei, we ask Hashem and we recognize that it's Hashem that is the one that's making us and allowing us to daven. In other words, we are approaching davening with a total bittul. So too, it's in learning Torah. When it comes to learning Torah, the approach also has to be in a way of bittul. Whoever reads Sukkim and Tanakh, or he learns Mishnah and so on, the whole Torah. So Hashem is facing him and learning the same thing with him, and reading the Sukkim and learning the Mishnayos and so on. So this means, obviously, this brings him to a state of bittul. His chavrus is Hashem. How can he not be in a state of bittul? It says, the term, Mother says, let your ears hear what you are bringing out from your mouth. The simple meaning is that you should pronounce the words, not just read it with your eyes, or not just read it so quietly that your ears can't even hear it. When you learn Torah, it should be in a voice that you hear what you're saying. But the deeper meaning is, what does it mean? That Hashmilas Nacham Mashata Moitzim Mipicham, the Ata Huashkin. When it says Ata, you is going on the Shechina. That's the Ata Moitzim Mipicham. Ata, you, the Shechina that's facing him, is bringing it out of his mouth. The entire learning of the person has to be in a way that I am hearing and I am listening for what the Eibishter is saying. I have to be in tune with and bottled to and recognizing that this is all Hashem's speech that I'm saying. These only repeating the words of the Eibishter. I'm not saying anything of my own. The kasher limit at Torah ba'ifin kazeh hine azu emes v'yatziv kulu. When he is in such a way, when he's learning Torah in such a way that he recognizes that it's the Eibishter's words and he's only repeating after Hashem, so then the Torah that he's learning is emes v'yatziv v'nochem. There's the truth of Torah over there. He doesn't bring his own ego, his own self, and his own ideas which are untrue. And he says that this is all comes as a result of everything that we said before, the Axray Alkicham Tolechum. We'll stop over here. Any questions before we go on?